Hey there, how's it going? Welcome to Water Songs Workshop, the place where I work on my character ideas, try out art challenges, and try to make your day a little bit brighter. For today's video, I wanted to have the community get more involved in my art process. I asked my Discord channel full of my Patreon and close friends to vote on what they wanted me to draw next, and it ended up being mushrooms as Gothic witches. Goths, witches, somewhere in there. Something.
Who are we talking about?
Speaking of Patreon, I have a new Patreon up right now. I will link that in the comments below. If you would like to vote on these projects as well, or just be a part of my friend group and my community, I would love for you to join me. I have several different tiers full of a bunch of different things. One of them even has a free character piece once a month, so if that is interesting to you, please go ahead and join, and I cannot wait to meet you. The way I did this today is I found a bunch of mushrooms that kind of stood out to me and like sparked an idea, and then I found a particular goth style that I thought could like fit with these mushrooms and kind of like mash them all together. But let's go ahead and jump in.
This station is conducting a test of the emergency broadcasting system.
Also during this process, I decided to use some mood boards to try and like help collect my thoughts together, get a color palette going, and really like merge my ideas into what I wanted to create.
This concludes this test of the emergency broadcast system.
So we're gonna start with the Vampire Goth. He was inspired by Bleeding Tooth and Devil's Fingers mushrooms. The Bleeding Tooth ones look like these white mushrooms with little red globules in them. It looks kind of disgusting, honestly. The Devil's Fingers look like these tentacles coming out of the ground with black spots on them.
Tentacles? Why did it have to be tentacles?
I thought they were both very interesting and would fit like a vampire vibe a lot better than anything else would. So the inspiration for this particular one was I wanted a traditional vampire to work with this vampire goth who can control blood even outside of the body. The vampire goth style is very similar to a romantic goth style with a bit more edge. I wanted to use the Bleeding Tooth as like the undershirt with like a bunch of red spots that looked like blood was still there. I thought that would look really interesting. And then for the Devil's Fingers, I mostly used the patterning in like the shirt that's underneath the vest, and also in these like tendril capelets, and I put like a little bit of red in his hair as well, just to like add that extra bit of like bright red in the motif. I know that goth is usually a very darker style, but I really wanted these reds and these whites to also pop amongst it to really give it that bold look and really draw in the eyes. I also wanted to give him a bit of a reddish glow, as like his magic tends to be more red. I'm thinking the element that he leans more towards is water, which is why I gave him like a flowy shape and kind of made everything like flow up to his face in a more visually appealing way. And here is my finished interpretation of a vampire goth inspired by the Bleeding Tooth and Devil's Fingers mushrooms. My second inspiration was a mixture between the fairy and the pastel goth and kind of combine them into one to make this dark academia mixed with fairy inspired witch. I gave her some fairy wings, I gave her some school-like clothing, except a little bit more goth. My inspiration for this, mushroom-wise, was the Amethyst Deceiver and the Puffball mushroom. The Amethyst Deceiver is like this purple mushroom that was pretty rounded, and I wanted to have that on the top of her boots. I wanted to put that as like a hairpiece in her hair. And then the puffball mushrooms are just these little white puffballs that have like spikes on them. I decided to like throw those all through her hair. I decided to put a little bit on the belt that are a little bit smaller, and I also added a little bit of a floral design on her stockings so that she looked like she had more of a tie to nature. The pastel goth is known for its pastel colors, obviously, with the darker makeup, and then the fairy goth is meant to have that fantasy whimsicalness about it. And so combining the two, I got to use these pinks and purples, and I got to have that fairy aesthetic, but also like have her look incredibly smart as if she was still a scholar. And here we are. This one was my personal favorite. This one is the Romantic Goth. I love drawing giant bog hounds, and this one scratched an itch in my brain somewhere that I absolutely loved. I want to use this person as a D&D character one day, but for now, let's just talk about her. This particular witch was inspired by Witch's Butter and the Death Trumpet. I wanted her to be a Victorian witch of the swamps that focuses on magic and potions, so I used the Death Trumpet as the bottom bell of her dress and as her hat. And then the Witch's Butter is this yellow moss-like mushroom that kind of grows on the side of logs, and it looks chunky. It looks kind of gross, honestly. I didn't know what I was going to do with it. Then I started sticking it on like the top of her hat. I started sticking it on the dress. I started sticking it on the top part of her corset, and I started to love this yellow accent against this entirely dark ensemble. The style of a romantic goth is based on the 19th century romantic movement and dark elegance, basically. And that combination of that dark elegance with this yellow accent, it's a beautiful combination in my brain where two different sides that clash work so perfectly together. And I wanted her to have that light motif to completely counteract that dark vibe that she has, to show that she is somewhere in the middle of this beautiful scale. Here is my finished interpretation of a romantic goth inspired by Witch's Butter and the Death Trumpet mushrooms. This fourth one is inspired by a nature/hippie goth.
Man, the man tried to make us wear bras and shave our pits. Drop acid, not bomb!
Mixed with the turkey tail mushroom and witch's hat mushrooms. This one, I wanted to have that vibe of a witch in the woods that is attuned to nature and the earth, can grow flowers out of nowhere, knows how the earth is feeling. This style of goth has the darker browns and earthy tones, fairly loose, so I added the turkey tail as part of her dress, the flowing layers of a dress, and then the witch's hat, of course, had to be a hat. And then I added some extra oranges in there just to give that theme running throughout. Her magic is very much based on the life of plants and the life of everything that surrounds her. I also wanted to give her that like red to brown ombre in her hair to like make sure the rest of the outfit matched all together. I hope I did a good job. I think I like the flow of it. I'm very proud of the fringe work I did on that vest. Is it a vest? I'm not sure. I think her vibe is really cool and really flowy. But yeah, here's my finished piece of a nature/hippie goth inspired by turkey tail mushrooms and witch's hat mushrooms. Finally, I'm going to try and combine two entirely different styles of goth, being the albino and the antique goth. I found two mushrooms that I really loved. One's called a shaggy mane mushroom, and it's this white mushroom that has like these black dripping parts at the end of it. And I also found one that's called a lion's mane that has, it looks like a weeping willow that's small and white. It's just cascades of tendrils down the mushroom side. And my brain went, huh, this looks like it could be like a 1920s flapper dress. And I decided to just kind of smash them together, make the beads that come off of the shaggy mane be part of her jewelry, and make the lion's mane the fringe that comes off. Now, I did this fringe individually, and it was painstaking, but I'm so proud of this. The albino goth is obviously this more predominantly all white with dark makeup and accents. The antique goth is meant to be like just looking back into the past. I think romantic goth kind of falls under this category as well, but I think also you could have like a steampunk-esque style, and I figured by combining the two, the 1920s and the albino, it would make an interesting silhouette. I love the movement of the fringe. I love the white and black contrast. I love that smoky element that she has that kind of like represents her fiery aesthetic. I'm very proud of all of this. And there you have it. That is my interpretation of the albino and antique goth mixed with the shaggy mane and the lion's mane mushrooms. And that about wraps it up. It's a whole bunch of fun seeing all five of them together. You can see from like left to right, they all have their own element. Air, light, fire, earth, water. I had such a fun time like trying to make all these work in a story arc and to make them all feel like they belong in the same world. If you'd like to be part of my family and help me figure out which things I should be drawing next, I will put the link down below. I would also like to shout out my two members who are in the Sparkle tier. Thank you so much, PillageTheVillage and timepixie. I love you both very much. It really means the world. That should about wrap it up. What Gothic style and mushroom would you combine to make your own character? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. I love hearing any bit of imagination. It is always fascinating to me. So let me know, please. I'd love to hear about it. Thank you again so much for being here. Keep being fantastic. And until next time, I'll see you around.